There are worlds within worlds, systems within systems, patterns within patterns, all waiting to be noticed by the observant observer. The truth is, everything we encounter here is actually a representation of a higher truth. Everything. Sometimes these representations aren't a very good replica of these higher truths because we have distorted their reflection out of dusty or cracked mirrors. But that which is being reflected isn't really warped or distorted. It waits in its perfect wholeness, its perfect holiness, to be observed as it truly is. So today, I'd like to dust off those mirrors and look at one of these patterns within a pattern, one that is very familiar to each of us. Because when we begin to understand the nature of these patterns, these laws, this interplay, these cosmic dances, when we understand them on any level, then we can see it repeated on all levels. And this seeing clears away quite a bit of misconception. So on this video, I'd like to talk about what it means to be male and female, the true spiritual meaning behind the sexes, the yin and the yang, the dance of the sexes. You may think you've heard it all before, but I guarantee you this is a take on the birds and the bees that your mama never told you. Male and female aren't simply physical genders. They are actually expressions of a deeper truth, a pattern that repeats over and over. It's a beautiful interplay that permeates our very world on every level imaginable, as I hope you'll soon see. Now, whether you're a woman or a man, there's no doubt that you've had to notice there's a constant reference to male preference and male dominance that is upheld by virtually every religion and culture imaginable. It's even part of the sacred text. But it is the truth being seen thinly, superficially, through dusty and fragmented mirrors. And as you have begun to understand, the higher truths are very much like magic eye pictures. At first, we think we might see something there, maybe something in that jumble of colors, and maybe we convince ourselves that we do, but all we are really seeing is our own prejudiced projections. That is, until the day when we suddenly really see it, when we suddenly really get it, and to our surprise we see in a depth never imagined before. Now, as a female, I always knew something had to be up with this male preference thingy, no pun intended. I mean, who could take serious an almighty being who prefers one over another based upon whether they wear panties or boxers? I mean, really, doesn't that sound just a little silly, just a tad shallow? But it's easy to see how historically male leaders had always assumed this superficial interpretation, if for no other reason than it worked out quite nicely for them in many cases. And really, I can't say that I blamed them. But my spirit, which knows no physical gender, just could never buy into it. I always knew there was more to this male-female business than met the eye, but at the time, I just didn't know what. So I wrestled with this for years until finally I quit trying to rationalize it or think my way around it. I finally did what I tell you to do. I asked why. The answer came like a bolt out of the blue. I always refer to answers like this as being downloaded to because that's what they feel like. Bam! This complete explanation suddenly appears where before there seemed to be not a clue. And this is what I learned. Male and female are, big surprise, two parts of the whole, like the yin and yang. The male is the catalyst, the seed, the direction, the intent. It is less subtle than the female and easier to see what it's doing, and it seems to dominate, but it really doesn't, because it cannot bring what it wills into being without the female. Now the female is the medium, the field to be planted. It is that which has the ability to bring forth and to nurture and to sustain what it brings forth. It is the more subtle of the two, often mistaken as weaker, but it's not. It is the divine medium from which all is made. Or a simpler way to look at it is this: the male is the recipe and the female is the ingredients, and it takes both to bake a successful cake. And each of us have both of these within us, whether you are a woman or a man or a special someone in between. We do. So, what is this higher truth about it being preferable to be a male? Why is it that way? Because if you are male, you are the one casting your seed, your intent, your will. You are the directive. You're the recipe. And this maleness is within each of us, regardless to our gender. To be female means to be receptive, to be the field, to be the medium that brings forth, and that's good. And we each have this as well. But to be only female means you have brought forth no directive, no intent, no say-so in what comes forth. And that's not good. Now, if somebody comes by and plants good seeds in your field, good for you. You'll benefit from it. In fact, I am casting my seed into you right now to see if it finds root. But what happens if you get bad seed? You get a field full of things you didn't want. But when you have become male spiritually, you are casting your seed into the world, impregnating others with the truth, planting good harvests in untended fields that the owners of the field will eventually benefit from. You can cause spiritual quickening in those who are awakening and wish to bring forth. This is the spiritual meaning behind being male, and why it is indeed preferable. The higher truth is, being male is not about a chromosome preference from a misogynistic God. Being male is all about this. And as you are relearning how to look on your bottom shelf, as we talked about in Astonished, and see what is there and replace it with what you want to see, you are exercising this maleness, your directive, your intent. And when you don't do this, you are like the empty field that just lets things pile up there, and you get whatever shows up, whatever the wind blows in, whatever another plants there, whether you want any of these things or not. And when we begin to see like this, when the scales fall away from our eyes, we see the truth as it was meant to be seen. We can see that it is preferable to be male, to cast your own seed, sow your own fields. It makes perfect sense, because you direct what will grow in your life, and you call it forth. So let us mature and go forth, so that we may cast good seed into the untended gardens of sleepy brothers and sisters, that they may awaken and eat of what has been planted and grow and become mature males themselves. Because this is what it really means. This is the higher truth being expressed. So, mature, cast your seed, and begin replanting paradise, your Garden of Eden, today. Because when one rises, we all rise. You have this ability. You have this and more.